Welcome to the Peace Activation podcast, a space for real talk on healing, leadership, and conscious change. I'm Eva Dalak, founder of Peace Activation and your host. Each episode brings you insights and tools to help you live and lead from a place of inner peace. We explore how healing ourselves can transform how we lead, love, and live, and ripple that peace outward. Tune in, reflect, activate.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is our second episode of the Peace Activation podcast with Eva Dalak. I'm J'aime, the producer, and the very gracious and blessed soul who gets to sit and really take in and reflect with Eva upon landing back in Costa Rica. Just returned back from Israel and Palestine. It was 3 weeks. Almost a full month. I really wanted to take the privilege and the opportunity to reflect a little bit about what you saw and witnessed and activated.
Thank you, J'aime. Thank you. Happy to be here with you. Yeah, it's been a week since I came back, and I feel I'm just landing into my body now. Had a beautiful meditation by the river near my house and was just thinking about what reality I just left and which reality I came back to, and feel really, really blessed. So grateful, so blessed to be able to ground in this way after 3 weeks, and how many of the people I work with don't get this opportunity, don't get this chance to come out, take care of themselves, and come back. And I think it's at the heart of peace activation. I don't know if I would be able to do peace activation if I'm solely in Palestine, Israel, in the heat, in the fire, every day, every moment, every second that you breathe. There has been moment of repair, of calm, of connection. Like there's the intensity and there's life happening within the intensity. That's really what I want to convey, is that we're not constantly in fight or flight. There's a moment also where the nervous system relaxes. There's moment and there's spaces and there are places that communities create there on both sides where there's a breath that is taken. This morning, as I was reflecting on the dry reality, really, I mean, like I'm in the lushness of the jungle of Costa Rica. So there's water everywhere, there's green everywhere. There's really such a feminine energy because there's no army in Costa Rica. And that's like a huge important element to mention. Like I moved from highly militarized society to a no army society, to a no army country, where the energy is so different. And I think a lot of it, because there's no army, there's no this militarized concept. There's other things obviously happening, but there's no this concept of an army. And there's nature that's embracing you all around. There's the waterfall, there's the ocean, there's the tree, like so beautiful. And for so long, I've been living here for nearly 14 years. And it's really a paradise that we can make heaven or hell out of it. And that's where peace activation, I think, was born, in the sense of the activation is the trigger and peace is the gift. You know, it's like, how do I sit? How do I find my peace when I'm triggered, when I'm in the heat of the moment, of the crisis, of the chaos? How can I come back to center? It's such an interesting reflection, just nature. I will go more in details into what I was doing there and accomplished or didn't accomplish, but I feel like just the nature, because one of the pillar of peace activation is nature, is the somatic integration, is the embodied feminine wisdom. And so where does this come from? Well, it's coming from here. It's coming from the way I connect back to nature, the way nature nurture me to be able to do the work that I do. And the way when I come back and I feel like the heaviness of what I've witnessed, what I've seen, what I've shared, and how in the stillness of the moment here, because I live, I mean, we can add a photo where I live, but I live in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around me. There's like the river, there's a waterfall. I'm looking out now to the sky and mountains of greens. And it just like my whole soul just relaxes into my being. So I feel privileged. I feel just like privileged to be able to come back to this reality and take a deep breath of gratitude of, yeah, I get to come back here. And so many people, so many friends, so many family members don't get that.
I would like to take this opportunity to talk about how in the last week we moved in the Chinese New
Mm-hmm.
Year from the year of the snake to the year of the fire horse. And Eva, I think this is so incredibly matching the pathway of your life and of your service, because this year just started with a rush, with this huge mission
Mm-hmm.
going to Israel and Palestine. We were in touch and you were offering workshops that were day long, every single
Mm-hmm.
day, into the night, exhausting. Well, that's my perception of it. We'll let you talk
Yeah.
about how that was energetically for you. But I would just love to know that what you're saying is symbolizing the fire. And you even called it the
Mm-hmm.
heat. But the other half
Mm-hmm.
of that, and I think this is so important for all of us who are peace workers, who care about the world, who are really stepping in this fire horse energy, is that Richard Rudd, actually, of the Gene Keys, gave a big transmission
Mm-hmm.
about the horse. And he said, a horse will
Mm-hmm.
run itself to death. It's up to
Yeah.
us to slow the horse down. It's up to us to take the horse to the river, to the stream, to give it a drink, to allow it to rest. And so I would love to take this opportunity to just really nurture that direction and that transmission
Mm-hmm.
that you're living in right
Mm-hmm.
now. And just to
Mm-hmm.
speak a little bit about how we resource ourselves, because you cannot give 8 hours of workshop or more every single day without
Yeah.
rest.
Yes. And I think that's what I felt this morning. I've been going to the river every morning. I mean, I drop my son to school, and on my way back, I just stop at the river to just wash, really wash my energetic body and connect to the sunrise, um, and the landscape. And just like, I feel like just my whole being, my eyes are resting on this landscape. And the heat, in the heat of the moment, I don't feel the heat. And I think that's part of why I continue. And I only feel it when I come back here and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. But while I'm doing what I'm doing, I don't know I'm exhausted. I'm just like fueled by adrenaline, nonstop adrenaline that allow me to continue from one workshop to another, from one place to another. Like even my friend and family member in Palestine and Israel, they're both like, how do you do that? Like we're exhausted just watching you. Can you stop? Can we like hold you? And have a dear friend in Haifa also that says, "No, it's crazy. You drive me crazy. You're like the sand that falls between in between, their fingers because we can't catch you. You're constantly on the move." And I feel like in a way, there's a force inside of me that pushes me to move this way because I feel that's what peace activation is about, is really activating spaces, activating energy beyond what I teach is who I am in every single moment, in every single encounter that matters. It's not the knowledge, it's not the skills, it's the way of being. And I get a kick to start my day in Tel Aviv, in Rishbon with my friend Rani, and end my day in Beit Lahem with Nimala, Nahed, Sami, Suli, like, like move from between these two community and make this a reality. I get a kick to start my day in Ramallah and end it in Jaffa with my family member. And we're talking about like an hour or 2 hours of driving one way, you know? Like I finish a training or a workshop with women in Nablus. I finish at 2 p.m. and I call my friend Dalit, who is in Kvartavor and is 2 hours away. And I'm like, hey, I finished my workshop earlier. What are you up to? And she's like, I'm going to this dance. Do you want to join me? It's at 7 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. I'll be there like at 5, you know? I know it sounds crazy. And for many of my friends, even my partner from this, like, you are absolutely crazy. Like he wouldn't do like half of this, trip movement in the car. But I feel like I'm activating spaces. I'm actually showing how peace is available for us. I'm actually showing that there's no divide. I'm actually living the no divide. I'm living the both community together. I'm living the reality of peace is available in every space, in every moment for everybody. It's just like we've been programmed, manipulated, and we're buying into this stupid belief that we're enemies and we need to hate each other and we need to fight for our existence. So that's one reality I'm activating. And when I come out of Ramallah, I still have to sit for 2 hours in Kalandia checkpoints with no apparent reason for the stop. Nothing. Like there's one car. I was supposed to arrive to a meeting in Bethlehem, and it's like, I don't know, a 30-minute drive. So I leave Ramallah at 1. I have the meeting at 2 p.m. with the bereaved parent circle family. They never managed to pronounce their name correctly. The Parent Circle Family Forum. I have a meeting in their office in Beit Jala at 2 p.m. I leave Ramallah at 1. I somehow don't calculate checkpoints in my mind. And because I have an Israeli car, I don't need to go through the long road from Ramallah to Beit Jala that goes through Wadi Nar, which is like an hour and a half road. Like a big, big circle. Not even a circle.
Full of other
detour.
cars.
Yeah, these are like Palestinian car plate have to go through this detour. They cannot go to the straightforward road from Ramallah to Beit Jala because I get to pass to go through Jerusalem, which is shorter because Ramallah, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. And it's really important to say this geographical location because people don't understand what it means concretely unless you are there, unless you're speaking with people from there. But for the rest of the people that don't get to know someone in place or to go to these places, what does it mean to stay at a checkpoint? Well, it means that there's an 18 years old soldier or 2 or 3 or 4 youth, women and men that have just come out of high school, had a training in the army, and now they're positioned to be basically controlling the movement of Palestinian back and forth for the security of Israel. That's the official position. There's so much danger in the occupied territories. Like we need to occupy them and we need to provide safety and security for our citizens. So then after the checkpoint is the traffic jam. I mean, I had like a hell of a day that day. I'm like, wow, okay, this is also a reality. And so I'm mentioning this because I really want to capture reality. There's variety. There's like so many different possibilities in this reality. I wrote about that in my Substack. There's multiple realities, yes, and one system, but there's also one reality with many possibilities. And unfortunately, we're choosing just one possibility right now, which is a possibility of occupation and of violence and of disaster. But if we open up the possibilities, there is the possibility of this movement back and forth between both communities, or there is this possibility of peace. There's a real possibility of peace, and peace not as a foreign concept, peace as a daily living reality, which means that people can go to their work without having to wait in a checkpoint for hours. People can go tend to their land without settler violence coming and taking over their land. People can feel safe in their home and sleep without having to run into a safety room. Like there's so much of these realities, of these possibilities that I've seen, that I've lived. When I went with the lead to this beautiful singing event in the north of Israel, and I was observing it. Like, we were like maybe 100 people singing about love and light and connection to our heart, to our soul. And this is like spiritual community in nature. You would think you're not in Israel. You would think you're in Costa Rica or in Topanga, California, or, you know, in some distant places. But what I lived that day was a reality of occupation and checkpoint in the morning, and in the evening, a whole community singing for love and light. It's in their name that this is being done. And so we cannot deny this reality. We cannot. And for me, this is what speaking truth to power means. It doesn't deny the existence or the essence of what each community lives, but it does speak about the fact that this exists in parallel to this. There's so many parallels. There's so many parallels. And unless we connect this parallel and understand that the parallel reality here is actually impacting the parallel reality here, but we're not taking responsibility for it. But we do want peace and we want love and light. And so what I'm speaking about here is also the spiritual bypass around that. So yeah, I do speak about peace. I do speak about love and light, and I believe in it deeply in my heart. And I do see the reality that I'm facing. That's why the reality that I'm facing, I know that it has to be changed inside. But the power that I would have inside would allow me the power to stand outside and change this system of oppression, of manipulation, of programming. Because if no one is buying into this programming, then there's no system of oppression. The only reason this system of oppression exists is that we bought into the belief that we are powerless beings. We need that for our safety or security, or that we need to kill to survive.
Yeah. So many things you just laid down that I would love to go back and touch, Eva. First of all, kind of going backwards, I'm appreciating on behalf of the audience and being part of the audience that you described the daily life, even the checkpoint. I was really hoping you would talk about what happens on this trip. And your description of that 2 hours you sat in the checkpoint reminded me of what you often presence as the space in between the inhale and the exhale. Is that there's a moment of possibility in there.
Yeah.
And it feels very metaphysical the way you describe it, because it's like, instead of focusing in on the one conditioned possibility of what this means, you're kind of staying more in the wave frequency of presence
Right.
and of peace activation as a space activator.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit more about that, because one of the questions I was hoping to land today is the difference between activation, and peace activism. And that description of a lived reality felt like some of that right there.
Mm-hmm. You know, we speak a lot about holding space. We're holding space for people, for communities. And what come to me very often is, don't hold space. Just be that space where people can come to. Be that space where people can feel so comfortable that they can reach out. I went to this trip. I didn't have many activities planned for this trip. I was going back for paperwork, visit my family, and couple of meetings. But what happened was I was that space where people reach out and ask, oh, can you do this workshop? Would you come and be with us? One of the spaces that I joined with my friend Nimala was for the parent circle, women on the Palestinian side, and 60 women were there for a weekend. And we were that space where they were able to finally sit in silence and feel their grief and talk about their grief and move their bodies in ways that they aren't used to and listen in ways that they aren't used to and observe the conversation in ways. That's the triad methodology that I use everywhere, whether in Israel or Palestine or even in our online course. This is really the core methodology, the core technology that we use also with the lead in our workshops in Israel. This is the opportunity for people to speak from their heart, for another person to listen from their heart, and for a third person to observe also, being that space where the speaker and the listener can share. And I think the difference between, for me at least, many people will maybe define it differently, but for me, the activation is different than activism. Activism focus on an external action. Activation focus on an internal action that will allow you to do the external action. Activation is the trigger. When I am in this checkpoint, or when I am in this workshop, or when I am in this encounter, when we are the space, I feel we land, we drop into our essence, our loving essence. When we're holding space, we separate ourselves. We become two. And for me, this separation is part of the programming that we were sold. We're not separate being. We're one. We are one. And it's not just a concept. And the workshop that we held in Israel with two of my best friends now, Dalit and Rani, in collaboration with Kumo, Jonathan Shimris, is actually about how do we become one in Israel. And so this one day workshop was a first collaboration with Rani Oren. And we can reference the podcast I did with Rani a while back under the Peace is Possible podcast. Rani Oren holds a beautiful vision of we are one, where the whole of Palestinian and Israeli are one and joining effort in making peace a reality for both communities. And Dalit Eliyahu, my partnership for the past 10 years, spiritual psychologist with whom we created One Whole Peace. And so One Whole Peace joined arms with One and Peace Activation. And we're kind of putting all our effort now together to propose programs. Peace Activation supported a women's organization called Takadom in Palestine, headed by Wissam. And we did 3 back-to-back workshops in Ramallah, Bethlehem, and Nablus for women in different backgrounds. We're talking about support for women active in their own community with their family, and how can we support them in regulating their nervous system and creating a sense of inner safety. How can we activate peace inside out? And the only way we can activate peace is if we create a sense of inner safety inside of me. And so the 3 workshops were around that. It's targeted women leaders and embodied resilience. Like, how do we act in our community, in our work, professional life, and personal life when we are under threat, when we are living in a constant fear of death, and when family members are also not safe, or when we have news daily on what's going on in Gaza and what's going on in other communities, secular violence. So it was really interesting to see how within that space, we really created a space where these women could come and land into their bodies and feel into the aches of their bodies and their soul even. Some of them mentioned like, wow, I haven't felt relaxed in so long. And all we did was like just 2 or 3 hours activation. And that type of feedback give everything I do a sense, a meaning. It's like, wow, this woman, all they needed is a space where they can drop in to their heart and listen to each other. And I can say what is it that we do in this workshop, because it's also part of the 7 months course and the 7-week course that we do is basically we teach them to breathe, like come into your breath, in between an inhale and an exhale. A lot is happening. Can we just like drop into our breath? That's the first thing I do. Then we move a bit our body. Some of the tools I also use from Zach's 4-minute workout. I get all these women to stand up, move their hands, move their hips, move their knees. And then we sit down and we just notice in just doing this 5 minutes of breath and movement, how do I feel right now? Where am I? And so I presence them a lot. Where are you right now? Are you thinking about the past, or are you thinking about the future? Are you here with me now? Are you here and now? A lot of the work is around presencing, being in the present moment. And after that, we explain a bit about communication. We explain a bit about trauma, about how it sits in the body, about how we can listen to narratives, how we speak about our narrative, what's our stories, and how trauma is really more than anything. It's not the event itself. It's really about the meaning that we put to the story. What's the story we tell ourselves about what happened to us? So I invite them actually to share anything that they feel present, anything that they want to share about for 5 minutes. One person is speaking, one person is listening, one person is observing. And within 20 minutes of this exercise, they come back. The impact of this, again, 20 minutes of each person, 5 minutes speaking, listening, and observing, the impact is so big. It's like, wow, I haven't been listened to in that way ever, some women say. Or that it was so hard to share. I didn't know what to share. What story would I tell? So I sat in silence. And how powerful it is to sit in silence when someone in front of you is still staying with you in that silence. I keep referencing that silence is also communication. And so they are invited to share or not to share. They are invited to sit in silence. The only thing that they cannot do is deny the other person. It's like remove themselves from the space. They have to stay in the chair and they have to keep an eye contact with the person in front. And the observer is really kind of the space, holding the space, but more than holding a space, they are the space in which this interaction is happening. So, and after that, after the feedback, we do another break and we teach them some tools of trauma tapping technique. That is a technique that is amazing in helping self-regulate oneself into back to center. And just like it's tapping into certain meridian, it's a technique that has been used even after the genocide in Rwanda. It was developed actually then, and we can reference it. And it helped people to just like come back to their body. And that's it. This is like 2 hours snapshot sessions where a lot is happening, but also not much other than presencing how we feel in the moment. And can I still manage my emotions rather than my emotions managing me? And I explained that emotions, energy in motion, we're constantly in the movement. We've done that. That was my first free workshop with Takadom. And then I was invited to join the Parent Circle Family Forum and hold a session for them within their own gathering. And that was so powerful because these are family members that have lost their son, their husband, their daughters, their what. Like these are families that have lost a lot of members from both sides, and they're coming together. They're choosing to come together, Palestinians and Israeli, choosing to come together and meet in Beit Jala. That's where the headquarters of the Parent Circle sit. That's where their office is. And there was a lot of silence. Okay.
And what is the geography of Bajala For those of us who've never been to the region, where are people coming from to meet, and what is the
Yeah.
significance of that geography?
So Beit Jala is just before Bethlehem. I mean, if you're coming from Jerusalem, and it's one of the area where Palestinian and Israeli can meet. Palestine is divided into three areas, A, B, and C, and this is the place where Palestinian and Israeli can meet, because in other areas like Area A or Area B, Israelis are not allowed to enter unless you're a settler, and then you are actually allowed to go and grab the land. And this is in the process of being changed right now. While we speak, there's a new law in Israel that allow Israelis to go and take whatever land they wish, based on the fact that Palestinians cannot prove their ownership on their land. So this is creating a huge crisis right now. It's like the continuation of the expropriation of the land from Palestinian. And so Beit Jala is a place where Palestinian and Israeli can meet, can do joint group work. And people come from all over Israel. Palestinians are coming from different areas, from Nablus, Hebron, Khalil, Ramallah. It's different because the organization is national, so they have members from all over the country. And these are families, Palestinian families and Israeli families, that have been together for a long time. This is not recent. This is an organization that gather these families. And also, a lot of these families do not get the support of their other family members or of their community. So they are actually criticized and rejected by being part of the forum. So it's really very tender and very harsh reality for these people that choose to still meet and hear each other, you know. And during the meeting, one of the Israeli was sharing about him participating in a nonviolent civilian presence in one of the area where the settler were grabbing land, and he got beaten by the Israeli army. And he was asking the Palestinians, like, how do you guys do that? How can you like still live under so much oppression and so much helplessness? I felt so helpless. And these are my people. These are my, my mate. And the Palestinian answered, they laughed at him. They're like, oh, you're just not used to being beaten. If you were Palestinian, we would tell you, oh, you ate some beating up. That's the way that we keep our sumu. That's the way we keep our resilience. There was so much depth and sadness and acceptance in that interaction. The sadness of the Israeli of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and I don't know how you guys are still here. And kind of the resilience of the Palestinians saying, yeah, we're still here and we'll still be here, regardless of how much violence and how much extermination or expropriation we're facing. And so you're there hearing this narrative, like each person is coming with their narrative, and it's it was a check-in, like how are you coming? What happened to you during this past week? And these are some of the story from on the Israeli side. And from the Palestinian side would be, I lost a family member in Gaza, another family member, or I lost, like my land was grabbed in Masaf Riyata, and the settler came and took it, and the army didn't protect me, or other acts of violence that happen. And so you have all this presencing of all this violence, kind of normalization of violence. So you kind of push it aside. And I come here and I'm like, okay, let's just like tune into our body. How do we feel right here, right now? Can we take a breath? We're not able to change the reality right now. And I'm not claiming that I'm here to change the reality. I think that eventually this will change the reality. That's why I say it's one reality, but many possibilities. Right now, can I just change the reality inside my body so that I can self-regulate and be present with me, with my family here and now, and not deny how I'm feeling, not deny how you're feeling. And so again, similar type of activities, movement, breath, trauma tapping technique, heart-centered listening. These are, I want to say, these are like kind of my toolkit, my immediate toolkit. Then obviously in longer workshop and longer immersion and retreats and courses, we go deeper into some of this work. But I find that this is really the foundation. I cannot do any work if those people are not able to be in their bodies and they're not able to breathe properly and tap into their inner safety, sense of inner safety, that they're safe. It is safe to be here and now. It is safe to be on earth. I know it's chaotic and violent outside, but is it safe for me to be in my body? Is it safe for me to be in the present moment? And from that place, what is available for me? What can I do? What action, even as small as it is, what action can I take? And so from here, activism can trickle down. But I cannot do activism if I didn't activate that inner safety, that inner peace inside of me, so that I don't go into this manifestation or I don't go into this rage and lose myself and lose the other. I find like it's kind of an internal hygiene of like, I'm taking care of myself so that I can be present with you and take a concrete, efficient, productive action. So that was another activity. And then the third one, well, actually, yeah, third and another, I did a couple more in Israel. One was in honor of my father's celebration. He passed on February 9th, and in his honor, I offered a workshop for my community in Jaffa, for women in Jaffa, just again sharing some of this basic tool. I felt like in his spirit and in this place of birth for me and for him and for our family, I'm basically sharing back, giving back what I've received from that community, what I've received from that tradition and family and religion, just the honor of being present, of surrendering, because ultimately Islam mean taslim, to surrender. And so a lot of my surrender come from teaching from my fathers and mother.
How many Eva workshops, mas or menos, did you
have I done?
offer in that 3-week about period that you were there?
So I did 3, one in Ramallah, Nablus, Bethlehem, Jaffa, Rishpon, 2 in Rishpon, actually. So in total, I think 8 workshop, all of them one day or 2 hours or 3 hours, and then a 2 days workshop with the family forum for the women. This was only for Palestinian women to support their well-being. And this was in co-facilitation with Nimala Kharoufe. The workshop in collaboration with Dalit and Rani, focused on the Israeli leadership. So we invited key members of the Israeli community, leaders in their own communities, leaders in different fields, a lot of them from the network of Mastery, of Dalit, and of Oren, Use of Light, and of Kumu, Yonatan Shimris, whose story is just heartbreaking. This is the man that has lost his brother, was killed by the Israeli army after running away from the Hamas. He was captured and taken hostage by the Hamas on October 7, managed to run away, and the Israeli army killed him, mistakenly, obviously. And so he created a movement called Kumu, stand up. Like, really, it's time for us to wake up and stand up against the leadership that is taking us to disaster. And so the one-day workshop was really about us coming together as one and showing that there's many paths. There's many paths for this transformation that we're all undergoing, but it's one journey. It's one journey, many paths, many perspectives, many way of reaching that destination. But we're all sharing one journey. The end of my trip, actually, there was another workshop, I just remember, another workshop in Ramallah that I did with EcoPeace. supporting their team. Actually, this was specifically a gift for their team to self-regulate, because that's the thing about peace activation. Peace activation is targeting leaders and facilitators and coaches, people that are already as activists on the ground and are carrying and holding so much that their self-care drops to the ground. And it reaches burnout, it reaches overwhelm. And so how can we support these people that are serving? But they need to serve from a place of power and not from powerlessness. They need to serve from a cup that is filled and not from an empty cup. Because when you're an empty cup, when I'm an empty cup, the last thing I want to do is any workshop. The last thing I want to do is to serve. I want to take care of myself. And that's where the balance, for me at least, between Costa Rica, family time, nature time, reflection time, writing, sharing, dancing, doing what I love doing, and then coming back to the field and serving fully there. I think that's the fuel that allow me to go nonstop for 3 weeks and to be doing like 9 workshop in a period of 3 weeks, and then come back here and not crawl down, you know? And there's moment in between, as I said in the beginning, there's moment in between all this workshop. There was a lot of light. So there were moments there where I took a breath, where I nurtured. I was nurtured as well. I'm just remember another workshop that I did, actually 10 workshop. I did another workshop with Dania, a dear friend, sister in Jerusalem. And it was called Open to Receive. And it was targeting women in Jerusalem area. Because the thing is, each of this area cannot come together. Like, it's very challenging, especially because of the checkpoints and the time that it takes. Like, women from Jerusalem would rarely go to Bethlehem, or people from Bethlehem cannot actually go to Jerusalem. Like, I have a dear friend that hasn't seen his family in so long because he doesn't have a permit to go to Jerusalem. So he's stuck in Bethlehem, and his wife has a Jerusalem ID. So she lives in Jerusalem, and the family is not united. They cannot. Like, she would need to abandon her ID and take on a Palestinian ID to go and live with her husband and kid. And these are just like some, you know, tiny details here and there. Like, if we grasp the amplitude of what's happening in Palestine, Israel, I don't think anybody would be able to sleep in good conscience. But because we're denying this reality, because we're being brainwashed to justify this reality, because we're programmed to believe, really believe this horror story about who the Palestinians are and why it is justified for Israel, in the name of their security and safety, to hold a whole population captive and separate families and genocide a whole population in another area, then people are like, yeah, it makes sense, you know, and we'll argue over why it makes sense rather than really fully be present with what's happening, what truly is happening.
You know, Eva, upon joining your team and listening to former podcasts that you've hosted and really starting to lean towards and open my eyes more fully into the reality of what's happening in Gaza, I wonder all the time how you do what you do. It's just a simple
don't.
question, but you hold
Yeah.
your capacity to hold, and we might want to play with that word hold, right? Of how
Yeah.
you hold space and how you become space. I would love to hear a little bit more about what it is like to be you, doing what you do, knowing what you know, and seeing what you've seen.
I think the real answer is I don't. I don't hold that because I feel like it's not me, and it's not an empty word. It's my connection to nature. Like, the gift of losing my eyesight, and I say the gift purposefully, had allowed me to really tune into a space that exists within me that is a reflection of what surrounds me. And that's why the movement between Palestine, Israel, and Costa Rica is so key. because in Costa Rica, I tap into that energy, that feminine energy that holds me and nurtures me and allow me to be and give me insight. Like I spent this morning an hour by the river, meditating, swimming, allowing the water to wash whatever concept of self-sabotage or whatever ego, self, like whatever irrational belief there is. Like I intentionally work on myself. I have bodywork session. I have craniosacral. I have psychotherapy. Like I am so supported. I am so supported in doing the work that I do. So it's not me. I'm the vessel, and I agree to be the vessel. When I pray, allow me to say words that would touch people's heart, not to make me famous, but to make change happen. And I really, truly believe all the leaders, true leaders, we're all tapping into the same source. We're saying the same thing. We're just saying it in different ways, in different languages, so that each tribe will hear and it will be activated. Ultimately, what Zach says, what Gabor says, what I say, what Tara says, what all of these different people that are talking about trauma, about mindfulness, about peace, about leadership, we're all saying the same thing because there's no new under the sun. We're just repeating things differently. We're using different words, just like we're using different languages, different way of being. So that some people might be attracted to what I say. Some people will reject it. Some people will be attracted to what Sami says. Some people will reject it. It doesn't really matter as long as the essence of the message is transmitted.
I feel so lucky that we get to do this. All right, Ava's about to run to another meeting because even though she's here at home resting, giving the fire horse a drink by the stream, she's still very much ignited. We send our blessings as you are in your fire horse year, and we remind you to take the rest, slow the horse down, feed it, give it a drink of water, and give some love to the inner fire horse inside of you. So as we wrap, I just want to thank you for being here. And if this episode landed for you, we have a request that you would please share this episode with a friend. I will absolutely make sure that we're linking to the show notes, all of the programs and offerings and people mentioned. If you're curious, look into the show notes and you can find out more.
Thank you.
All right, Eva.
Bye-bye.
We'll bless you off. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling, and for holding space with us. If this episode moved you, please support the Peace Activation podcast by subscribing, sharing it with friends, or posting about it online. Every ripple counts. We'll be back next week with another conversation that dives deep into what it truly means to activate peace within and around us. To support the vision behind Peace Activation, visit peaceactivation.org and follow along on social media. You'll find both Peace Activation and me, Eva Dalak, across all platforms. Find all of these links in the show notes. Until next time, may you meet yourself and others with peace.